Purpose of this video is to make sure that you are informed about the negotiations process. This video was recorded on 4/18/23, so it contains information about the most recent counterproposal. Our next negotiation session is next Wednesday, which is the 26th. So information could, of course, change at that point. So on the 17th, during negotiations, ONEA did a counter proposal to the district's proposal. One of the elements of that counter proposal was just accepting the fact that the district is okay with our proposed language on the 6-hour variance language for secondary, rather. So this puts us more in line with surrounding districts regarding the payment made for teaching a 6th hour. Okay. Another proposal that was accepted was on page 79 of the negotiated agreement. This language was specific to elementary special education teachers, self-contained as well. And it had language that was kind of permissive regarding cutting into their plan time. We suggested that language be struck so that our special education elementary teachers have the same plan time guaranteed, as far as we can guarantee plan time, as any other educator, and the district also accepted that proposal. The next few slides are actually not just proposals that have been accepted. These were included in last year's negotiations. We agreed to them last year, but they were put off in terms of implementation until next year. So these are not new proposals. These have already been ratified and they will take place next year. So we made some adjustments in the extracurricular academic salary schedule. Here are some of the adjustments. There's some additional adjustments here as well. Obviously, there was some focus on elementary and then particularly the fine arts. Okay, and then here are the final items that were accepted, negotiated last year rather, and then accepted by the bargaining unit. Okay, keep in mind that the extracurricular academic salary schedule committee is meeting, and they will be potentially making some additional proposals for this year's negotiated agreement or for the coming year's negotiated agreement. Another thing policy-wise that we were working on is we were working on some language that would clarify that if there was a extraordinary and unscheduled need in the building, so this is not you're covering for a colleague. Okay, maybe let's say there's a student who is melting down and you are that student's safe person, for example. Okay, this language right here clarifies that, first of all, the educator must be requested by an administrator or a designee to miss their plan time, and then they must agree to that. And then based on how much plan time they miss, they will be compensated through the same process that we would use to compensate if you were subbing for somebody during your plan period. So we have a method for paying people for subbing during their plan period. This language allows other unforeseen events that pop up to allow you to be paid for that as well. In terms of workers' compensation, the ONEA is working to make sure that educators who are out on workers' comp are held harmless, meaning that they don't lose leave or pay while they're out on that workers' compensation claim. That conversation is going to continue, and we just ask that the district bring us some information by next fall so that we can decide the best way to meet that interest. The next thing that we are proposing is we wanted some language about safe workplace in our negotiated agreement. What you see on your screen is actually language proposed by the district that basically explained why we don't need language in our negotiated agreement about safe workplace. Essentially, what we're suggesting is that language that the district used to say, hey, you don't need language because here are all the policies that show you that we are responsible for having a safe workplace. It includes all of these policies. Okay. We are saying, let's go ahead and let's put this into Appendix B of our negotiated agreement so that all educators have an easy way of finding the policies that ensure their safety in the workplace. Okay, this I am sure will have some ongoing conversation. Next language piece, a grievance is when something that an educator can file if the negotiated agreement or a board policy is not being followed. Of course, with any issue, the goal is to deal with it at the lowest level in an informal way. But if that doesn't work, the grievance is the formal procedure that would allow an educator to basically ensure that the negotiated agreement is being followed. Okay. We are in agreement on timelines. We worked on adjusting timelines because some of the previous timelines were a little difficult, particularly during winter break, maybe even spring break. The piece that we are not in agreement on right now is that we would like to be able, as an association, to file a grievance on behalf of an educator, one or more educator. The idea there is that in some of our buildings, there is only one administrator. And so filing a grievance against that administrator sometimes it feels like it's very difficult for educators to do. So this would allow the association to do that on their behalf. That letter E is definitely one that we are planning. I'm sure we're going to have more information and more conversation about. In the district's proposal, they suggested that they would be willing to absorb any increase in insurance cost. So the employee premium would be the same as it was this year. We agree with that. But we are also wanting to make sure that the bidding process that is happening through the benefits committee finishes up, that we should be able to hear information about that on May 2nd. And the second thing that we're asking is some of you are aware that the high deductible plans, the plans that have the HSA, those deductibles are actually set by the IRS. And last year, those deductibles went up $200, but that was not the district's doing. That was the IRS. What we ask would be that the district would go ahead and increase the contributions to the HSA 1/12 of the increase in deductibles, essentially making up the difference. So that was our suggestion on that piece. Finally, as we get to compensation, we have agreed to adopt the revised salary schedule. And here is why. First one is our salary schedule, our current salary schedule is lagging behind our neighbors, and that is making it difficult for the district to recruit the educators that are coming into the pipeline. So we want to make sure that salary base is competitive. Number two, we really need to work on retention. Our previous salary schedule, in order to be fully implemented, that means you get step column every year. That means you get column movement you get step movement as well as column movement every year for those who qualify, in addition to getting a raise on scale, meaning that the numbers within the cells would increase. That salary schedule, the way it's set up, has made that impossible the last few years. So that salary schedule has not been fully implemented. We would like to have a salary schedule that we can fully implement so that we can get all of these things every year. And then lastly, the sustainable model. This allows us to kind of put into line what we want, which are raises every year, and the district budget, trying to put those things in line a little bit more. So our proposals about the compensation are really about transition. Okay, how do you place yourself on the new salary schedule? So here's what ONEA has suggested. Okay, number one, in transitioning from one salary schedule, the current salary schedule, to the now new salary schedule, first, the the educator should find their salary on the schedule, and they should add $1,750. So your current placement on the salary schedule, add $1,750 to it. Then you go to the new salary schedule in the same column, and you find the cell that is at least larger than the amount, including the $1,750. So that is a minimum of a $1,750 increase right there. In addition, once an educator has been placed in that appropriate column, then we are suggesting that educators should move one level down. That has been commonly referred to as step movement. In addition, we are asking for column movement for those who qualify. And because column movement on the new salary schedule is more affordable, those columns are more narrow, we are going to ask that anybody who qualifies for column movement would get an additional 2 bonus levels, so 2 more steps to help make up for the fact that the columns are in fact smaller, and most people looking at column movement were doing so looking at the amounts that were on the old salary schedule. Lastly, we want to make sure those of you that have been maxed, so those of you that were at max level 18 on the old salary schedule on last year, those people did not receive any kind of increase. Okay, they were essentially frozen there. So what we would like to do is we would like to negotiate 2 bonus levels or 2 additional steps for those who were maxed last year. So because this year they were also at max and this year they did not see an increase. Okay. Lastly, we would ask that the district maintains records on experience levels for each cell during this transition. And then we're asking that the new hires not be placed beyond existing staff, with the exception of our hard to fill areas, which is kind of gone over right here at the end. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Obviously, the old salary schedule here, or the current salary schedule, I should say, and this is the proposed salary schedule. So let's say that you are master's degree and you have 6 years of prior experience. You're right here in this area, 53,930. First, you add 1750. So we're looking for the cell in the master's column. So stay in the same column, cell in the master's column that has 1750. At least 1750 more. Okay, so the first cell that is more than 5560, 680, excuse me, is this one right here. Okay, then this person is going to get step movement, which means that their salary without column movement would be 56,632. That's how transition works. Okay, transition and then 1 level. Let's say that you are transitioning level and you also have column movement. So let's take that same person, master's degree, 6 years of previous experience, add the 1750. Everybody gets the 1750. We have now placed ourselves on the new salary schedule. Next up, you're going to go ahead and move over a column, and then notice that you have moved down 3 steps. Why 3 steps? Because everybody gets 1 step, and then the column movers get an additional 2 bonus steps. That would mean with column movement, this person would be making 59,426. Lastly, let me show you an example of what it looks like to transition at max. So let's say we're down here. We've got 34 years of experience or more. We're making 84,421. We're at MS plus 60. Okay, this person was in that max column in the 21-22 school year. Therefore, that means they did not see an increase this year. Okay, so we're going to add the 1750. That 1750 is for everybody. That goes ahead and puts this person right here. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do step movement that everybody gets, and then 2 additional steps or levels because that person was at max. This person will be making 88,120. Again, these are the proposals, or this is the counter proposal by Olathe NEA. The next negotiation sessions is at the Ed Center at 4 o'clock Wednesday the 26th. That would be a great opportunity for you to see how the district responds.